On this Ruining Your Phase episode, I'm going to be discussing this recent interview that Kanye West did on BigBoyTV. The interview happened not too long ago, and I was actually asked by someone to look into this interview in more detail. Kanye said many things here, some things I didn't necessarily agree with, but I understood where he was going. He just could have communicated it a little bit better. So let's get into the heart of this interview. No, not really. I'm just going to highlight certain parts. And here goes part one.
The guy that said George Bush don't care about black people is a coon because I didn't say I'm gonna vote on Hillary Clinton.
Right. No one's necessarily calling him a coon because he didn't vote for Hillary Clinton. Instead, they're looking at the person he did vote for and who he supports, which is our current president, Donald Trump. Donald Trump has been known for saying a lot of racist, xenophobic things over the course of his time as president and before he even became president while he was running. So people are trying to understand, why would you vote for somebody like that? And when I say people, I'm talking about mostly liberals or individuals who don't agree with Donald Trump's rhetoric. And also people are calling Kanye a coon because they don't agree with his actions. They don't agree with, like, for example, last year he said on TMZ that slavery was a choice, or he alluded to that.
When you hear about slavery for 400 years, that sounds like a choice.
A lot of people were upset. Now, a coon, for those of you who don't know, is an individual who belongs to the black community. That's where it's usually associated with. And this individual is said to harm the black community or align themselves with white individuals who don't necessarily see the plight of black individuals today. So a coon could be an individual who believes that white people are superior to black individuals, or a coon could be described as someone who believes in harming the black community or doesn't believe in black women, doesn't want them to succeed, or someone who believes that black men are not great. Now, where have I seen examples of these things before? And then there's comments that Kanye said earlier this year about the MAGA hat, or the Make America Great Again hat, the red hat that Donald Trump popularized. He tweeted, let me get my phone. One of my favorite of many things about what the Trump hat represents to me is that people can't tell me what to do because I'm black. The fact that people don't want you wearing that hat is the reason why you want to wear that hat. And another thing, when has America ever been great? The last I checked, the origins of this country started with enslaved Africans being brought over against their will to do labor. Also, we have the genocide of a people here, and they still can't really get serviced the way they should get serviced. I don't know if that made much sense, but I'm gonna roll with it. Now for the next part.
My father's a Black Panther. My mother got arrested for the sit-ins at age 6. They were fighting for us to have the right to our opinion, not the right to vote for whoever the white liberals said black people are supposed to vote for.
Yes, Kanye has a point here. You shouldn't just vote blindly for a specific party because you feel that you have an allegiance towards them. That's not what the civil rights movement and all these marches that black individuals had about voting was about. It wasn't about voting strictly Democrat or voting strictly Republican. It's just about voting for the individual that has your community's best interest at heart, or your best interest at heart. So obviously we see our president, Donald J. Trump, as an example of what the Republican Party could become, which is not necessarily the greatest thing. But then also we have Democrats who haven't done great over their years either. Recently there were some news leaked of Congresswoman Katie Hill, who supposedly had a Nazi tattoo, and she's supposed to be a Democrat. Then we have the famous words uttered by Hillary Clinton, you know, super predators, which was, in my opinion, a slight against black individuals, I think. Who could forget Anthony Weiner and how he famously sent pictures of his wiener to underage girls? On to the next topic.
What is the culture? It's like, man, this ain't for the culture. We doing something for the culture. We are orphans, bro. We are cultureless. We don't have our own culture. We sign to culture vultures. We sign our life away. Our contracts are culture vultures. Think about everything that's cultural. Taking a knee is cultural. Being on social media is cultural. Wearing high fashion is cultural. Pushing a foreign is cultural. All these things are not owned by our culture. So who designed the culture? What does it mean to do it for the culture? That's why I do it for Christ.
So here I think Kanye is conflating a lot of things into one ball. So let's talk about culture first. There's black culture and there's hip hop culture. A lot of times people think that black culture and hip hop culture are kind of synonymous, or that hip hop culture is a derivative of black culture. Black people aren't a monolith, and they practice and do different things depending on where these individuals were raised, where these individuals may belong within the diaspora. For example, you have black Americans who have popularized different forms of dance, but that's not all blacks in the world. You also have maybe Ghanaians, who are another sect of the black community. They just have a different culture and they have a different way of cooking. For example, they have jollof rice. You have Jamaicans with their oxtail. You have black Americans with their soul food, and the list goes on and on and on. When we talk about hip hop culture specifically, hip hop culture started as a way to fight the power to the people, you know what I mean? It was talking about politics, it was talking about social justice issues, and over time, it took a turn for the worse. Today, hip-hop culture revolves around glorifying cars, having a lot of money, what do I have that you don't have, a lot of times belittling women, and this comes from both male and female artists. This hip-hop culture is promoted to mass audiences by record labels that are largely owned by white individuals. So I can understand the point that Kanye made about not owning things. In a lot of cases, black individuals aren't in a position to own their own music because they sign their life away to different record labels like Atlantic. I'm an advocate for going the independent route, especially since black culture, hip-hop culture, is what people think of as American culture today. I also want to talk about the irony of Kanye saying, "I do it for Christ." Now, Christianity was not a religion that was widely practiced by enslaved Africans that were brought, stolen, taken, dragged over to the Americas. Instead, enslaved Africans had their own spiritual systems, they practiced Islam. Christianity wasn't really a big portion of that. Over time, with slavery, different black individuals started adopting Christianity, and in many cases, white slave masters used Christianity and the values in the Bible, or the teachings in the Bible, or the words in the Bible. Why am I so tongue-tied? These white slave masters used the words in the Bible to justify different practices in slavery, different harmful practices that they use towards black individuals. So Kanye, I just have to ask you a question. Is Christianity truly your culture, or a culture that you were brought into? Is Christianity truly black culture, or has it been adopted into black culture? Questions that need answers. On to the final point I'm addressing from this interview.
Social media doing more to hurt families than it is to help families, and families are the key to health.
This I do agree with to a certain extent. Instagram can be harmful for your mental health. For example, there was a study that was conducted a couple years ago in the UK. I think it was called the Status of Mind Survey. They looked at almost 1,500 youth and they assessed their ideas and their attitudes towards social media. And they found that Instagram actually is the worst for your mental health. It was linked to depression, the feeling of being left out, feeling that you're not doing enough in life. 1,500 participants, or around that number, is not really a large sample size, but it does add to the literature that talks about Instagram and other forms of social media that might be harmful for your health. People do it for the gram all the time. You see them fixing their pictures, you see them, well, you don't see them fixing their pictures, but I'm sure they do it. Everybody has the perfect body, everybody has the perfect life, and you don't know what's going on behind closed doors. All you can do is look at that picture and make judgments. So that wraps up my take on this BigBoyTV interview with Kanye West. I actually thought it was insightful. It definitely made me realize that we have to deal with mental health a lot more in the black community. And it also gave some insight into Kanye West's mind. I don't think he should be canceled, but I do believe we should be aware of what certain people in high positions of power or certain people of influence say. We have to be critical of what they talk about and not just take it and digest it and be like, oh, well, this is what I should believe in. If you have any further questions, make sure to leave them in the comment section below, or you can email us at chemistryproductions@gmail.com. Thanks for watching, and we will see. Oh, wait a second. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. We'll see you next time.
Chemistry Productions.